Welcome to the Twists and Turns Mystery Shawl Knit Along, the 13th Westknits MKAL. We're going to talk about how to choose your colors for this year's mystery shawl. Now for Twists and Turns, it's a lot about contrast and color opportunities. So with this shawl, we're going to think a little bit like Starflake and a little bit like Rockefeller, where there's a main color and a contrast color. 2 skeins each of your main color and contrast color, but we're going to add an accent color. So this is the type of color relationship for this year's shawl. So you need 2 skeins, 100 grams each of your main color, 2 skeins, 100 grams each of your contrast color, and 1 skein of your accent color. This is a really good chance to use a bright color pop or something that really stands out and is like a show-stopping color against the main color in contrast. I'm going to pop up the yardage here, so if you're not working with skeins and you're working with leftover yarns, or if you're working with these 50-gram cakes of yarns, these are the total yardage amounts that you're going to need for the Twists and Turns shawl. So the main color, you need 780 yards, and the contrast color as well, 780 yards, and the accent color, 390 yards. So if you're working with those skeins of yarn, make sure they have at least 390 yards, or 357 meters per fingering weight skein. And if you have yarn that's less than that, then just forget about it, okay? Because if you're using yarn that's not the recommended yardage requirements, you run the risk of running out of yarn, and that's no fun. So get some yarn with those recommended yarn amounts, and let's talk about the color style, the color relationship. So what you're gonna mostly see in the Twists and Turns shawl is the main color and contrast color. They're gonna play together, kind of like how I played with them in Starflake, or you see the main color and contrast color in the Rockefeller shawl. Imagine, what would your colors look like for a Rockefeller? What would they look like in a Starflake kind of color relationship? But then we're gonna spice it up with an accent color. So that accent color is gonna happen here and there. It might play with the other colors. You might see it on its own. It's gonna be its own personality. So what do you want the most of your shawl to look like? Make sure you have some crispy contrast. So I recommend solid, semi-solid, and lightly speckled yarns. If you go really heavy and busy with your colors, like if these are your 3 colors for the shawl, I mean, they're all kind of speckly. It's gonna be kind of blendy. So get a little bit of clarity in your palette with some contrast, a really dark color, and a lighter color. That's going to be really clear, and you're going to see all those fun new details for the Twists and Turns. So these are Life in the Long Grass colors, and I just love those moody darks and subtle speckles. And this is a really similar one with a dark color, a light color. Don't worry about what your main color and contrast color is. You know, I'm going to guide you when we start knitting on which one to place where, okay? So the main color, contrast color, don't matter which one is which, just get 2 of each, 2 skeins of each, and then 1 contrast. So one route you can go is to make a really bold color opportunity for your accent color. So that accent color, you just need 100 grams, and that could be a color that's really different from the other colors. Or another nice place to go with your color choices is to stick in one color family. If you're like, oh, I don't know how I'm feeling about these clashy colors and different color families. If you love blue, get 3 shades of blue, okay? You could get this beautiful gray blue, this charcoal, and this light blue for your main color contrast color. That would be so lovely and cold and cool for the majority of your shawl fabric. And then add a bright blue for your accent color, the AC. So I think that's a really fun route to go, sticking in the same color family, light, medium, dark, with your 3 color choices. If you like neutrals, this is another really safe option to go. And when I knit my first prototype, Twists and Turns, this is the color family I chose, neutrals with a pop. So get a really light neutral as your main color or contrast color, and get a dark neutral as the other color. And then your accent color can be a color pop. So this is a really great choice because it's really crispy. You're going to see lots of detail. It's not going to be too busy, and that accent color really gets to jump out of the fabric and steal the show with your palette. So you don't have to do a color pop as your accent color, but it's gonna be more fun, okay? So here's one more option showing you how to use speckles for the Twists and Turns shawl. So like I was saying before, if you've got speckles, I wouldn't go speckles and speckles that are really close together. This isn't gonna be a good main color contrast color. They're just gonna blend together and you're not gonna see all the fun new textures and twists that we're gonna do in the shawl. So spice up the contrast. This is a really high contrast choice, something really deep and saturated with that beautiful speckled colorway. So main color, contrast color, doesn't matter which one is which for now. We're gonna learn how to place our colors on October 6th when we actually start knitting. So this month we just get to plan our colors, dive into your stash, go to your local yarn shop, and I included a lot of helpful information in the introductory PDF. So when you sign up on Ravelry or at westknits.com for Twists and Turns, you're gonna get an intro PDF with a lot more color advice, color examples, needles, notions, all that stuff. But this, with that, this is a winning combination. So it's a Westknits Mystery Knit Along. You don't know what size the shawl is gonna be. You don't know what techniques are gonna be in it, except something twisty and turny, perhaps. So it's your chance to go really bold with your colors. Don't play it too safe, okay? So have some fun, get excited, choose a combination that makes you feel electrified and enthusiastic about casting on October 6th. So those are some fun color options. You'll notice some of our kits that we had at Stephen and Penelope and some of the yarns in your stash, they're not always these hand-dyed 100-gram skeins. You might have leftovers, or you might have these 50-gram balls. So this might be what your kit looks like. These are cotton yarns from Isager yarn in Denmark called Bomulin. It's a really beautiful cotton and linen blend. So you can use any type of yarn, wool, alpaca, cotton, linen, dive into your stash, any fiber you like. This would be a really beautiful shawl for cooler, that's not so hot out. So if you live in a warmer climate, you can do a cotton shawl. And these are 50 grams each, so you're gonna need 4 balls of each color for the main and contrast, and 2 balls of the accent color, because you need 100 grams of the accent, 200 grams main, 200 grams contrast. So your kit might look like this if you're building a palette from those 50-gram balls. Another yarn I really like is the Holst garn from Denmark. We always feature this yarn a lot in our MKAL kits because it's a really great price, it's a really nice natural fiber, and the heathered colors are so harmonious and they really balance off of each other. So your main color, contrast color, accent color might look something like this if you're choosing this Holst super soft yarn. I really love how this yarn blooms. It's a really rustic quality. So really nice and subtle, all the same color family. That'll be a little more of a subtle color relationship, or you can go really bold and spicy. So other than your yarn, the other materials you're gonna need for the twists and turns are a tapestry needle. We're gonna need that. We always need a tapestry needle. You're gonna need about 10 stitch markers, but get more stitch markers if you wanna have them handy. I always like having split ring markers handy for extra uses. You know, if you need to help mark your pattern repeats, or if you drop a stitch. I never do that, but sometimes I've heard that's a thing that happens. I drop a stitch all the time. So I use these little safety split ring markers to rescue things, or just mark my knitting, or even mark what is the right side and the wrong side of your knitting. So it's always good to have those, but we're gonna need 10 stitch markers and a cable needle. Okay, what do you think we're gonna do with that cable needle? I don't know, that might be giving something away. When you're picking out a cable needle, you could also use a double pointed needle, okay? That's fine as well. But if you're using a cable needle, just make sure it's a similar size to your working needle. I recommend a US 4 3.5 millimeter circular, this long, like 40 inches, 100 centimeter length. Make sure the cable needle is a similar length to your circular needle, or smaller is okay as well. Just don't get a super fat, thick, chunky cable needle. That's not gonna work, okay? So cable needle, what are we gonna do with that? Don't be scared, it's not gonna be too hard. We're gonna do some fun, little challenging tips and tricks, but I'm gonna show you video tutorials the entire way. So even if you haven't knit a Westknit shawl before, You can do it, okay? This is the chance for me to guide you through, show you every step of the way, and I don't know, it's like going on a roller coaster, but with a beautiful view, and you're safely like attached to the roller coaster ride, okay? And I'll be talking you through the whole way. So you might scream, you might not. It's up to you. Now we're gonna try some new things, and there's a couple new techniques in this year's shawl that I haven't done before, and I love doing that in my mystery shawls, putting in new elements that you may have not done. I'm sure most of you haven't done a couple of these things that we're gonna do in the shawl. So what do you think? What do you think the Twists and Turns is gonna be like? I think it's gonna be the best shawl yet, I have to say. I keep stepping it up every year, and I have so much fun putting all my energy and passion into this project. So I can't wait to see where you take that inspiration into your own color palettes. And remember, be bold, be brave, just trust, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna have a lot of fun, and the knitting starts October 6th. So get your pattern on Ravelry, Westknits.com. We have a lot of yarn and kits available at StephenandPenelope.com. But get creative, dive into your stash, show us what you got, and post all those projects on Instagram. And we have a Ravelry group as well that you can post your colors into. So check out those resources, and I can't wait to see you on October 6th for the big cast-on party. So thanks for participating, and I'll see you soon.